Today we're on box number 22, and this should be a realistic 1001 handheld. There's two variants. We have to pray that the antenna's intact, because there is absolutely nothing we could do. Though there was an American AM model from the 70s which had the same antenna. And I did once buy one of those for about, by the time it was delivered, it was nearly £40 just to nick the aerial off it. But you know, depends what customers want to do. Because without the aerial intact, it's useless. Unless you're going to use it as a base station. This has been well packaged, hasn't it? I think the gentleman's in Cheshire. Well, it looks in nice condition. So, here goes the antenna. Well, the grommet wants gluing back in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's perfect. Always put them down from the bottom, so that grommet just needs gluing in so it doesn't short against chassis. And let's look at the battery compartment. That looks reasonable. I don't test these on batteries, you know. We're a trade supplier, and if people want to use us, you know, there's certain things I expect them to be able to sort out. We're going to be running it solely from the power connector. Right, well, I think we better power it up and see what it does. And I should have a suitable power lead lurking. But you never know, do you? Ah, that's the one for the Harvard type. So the first thing you have to remember, this is a 12 volt radio. It is not 13.8 volts. You cannot just plug it into the cigarette lighter of your car with the engine running. It's 12 volt. Tandy's used to sell a cigarette lighter adapter with 5 diodes in series inside it to drop the voltage to a suitable amount. We've got a power supply set to 12.8 volts, and if I remember rightly, these are negative centre. I may be wrong, but let's have a look what the meter says. So I've got the negative into the centre. No, I'm the wrong way round. So they are positive centre. Okay, remembered that wrongly. But then Sibs in memory on me is very similar. So we'll plug that into the power socket, and the radio has now lit up. So you press the black button to read the display, except when turning the channel, and then it stays on for a couple of seconds to save power. All very good. So switch the volume up, squelch down, so it's making the right kind of noises at that point. So we're going to plug in. Right, notice the cover retaining strap is so brittle it's broken off, and the same will apply to that one. You can see it's broken off, but we've got to try and remember to put it back. So that's for our test instruments. That's loose. Now that's missing its retaining screw. So where am I going to get one of those from? I might have a scrap American one, because anything American's scrap, isn't it, in this country? Which makes it rather difficult to do any tests. Well, we can't get a cyanide reading because we can't plug that in. So I need the Motorola adapter, which is a Motorola and a phono in a cleverly designed adapter. Right, it should be in this little jar. It is. You can get these online. So it looks like a phono, but it's longer, so it fits in the back of a standard car radio, which is a Motorola connector. So this is your aerial adapter. And I expect that one's broken as well. It's so brittle. Wow. I'll try and remember to send that cat back as well. Right, so I'll put picture in picture on, and we'll get a piece of paper and we'll write down what parameters we can. Now I won't adjust the receiver, and then when the time comes to test it, it'll be untouched, won't it? So realistic TRC1001. They are 3.5 watt radio and not a 4 watt radio, and the difference between that half watt is massive on battery consumption. It nearly doubles. To do that extra half watt nearly doubles the battery consumption, so it's a real sensible move. Now we've done the range tests. We did some good terrain range tests, got 14 miles plus on these, and we can do the full 6 miles on our difficult terrain course, which we can't do with any modern radios, or down to the 1.5 metre telescopic aerial. So I'm going to get the service manual out. It doesn't matter whether I use the 1005 or the 1001, it's virtually the same chassis. Right, so I've done my chore and I've got the service manual out. So let's see, the minimum they want it to be is 3 watts. So we'll switch picture in picture on. It is on. Is it in where I want it? No, it isn't. Now it is. So key it up, and then we're on which power setting. It's doing 2.3 watts. So remember, that's 12.8 volts, and they say 12.5 volts, so I'm being a bit over generous there. Low power isn't adjustable, but we will just test that just for the laugh. It's 900 milliwatts. Good battery saving. At 900 milliwatts it's drawing 270 milliamps, whereas on high power it's at the moment drawing 890 milliamps, which is a lot of power for 2.5 watts coming out. We've got a dirty connection. It is 2.5 watts, and that's now dropped to 770 milliamps. Just retest low power, 120 milliwatts. So we can't test the receiver at this point. Deviation's often low on these. Low is 2. We should be able to bring that up, but it's not the end of the world if we can't, because that's louder than the new sets are. So until we open it up, I can't test the receiver for you. We'll just turn it off. So it's the 2 screws underneath. We shouldn't have to take the bottom off this unless it's riddled with dry joints and not actually receiving, but it's certainly transmitting. And then it's the screw out of the back, which goes all the way through. Then this lid carefully comes off. The wiring to the speaker is quite limited, so don't go pull snap. So it pulls out from the top. So as you lift up this, if you lift up that bit, you've got to pull it like that and then turn it. It just about has enough wire to lay flat. And this is the later version because it has a power preset there, whereas the earlier version doesn't. The reason they put that in is that you, if you've got the early version, you're going to be tuning it for full power, and that full power might have been more than you wanted. You know, it might have developed 4.2 watts. Well, you don't want the set to do that because you're going to be thrashing the batteries, and the range you're going to get better is so marginal. It's not worth it. So, what I'm going to now be able to do, hopefully, is push the extension speaker sockets. We're going to have to disconnect this. It was quite naughty really, because the way this is presented, it's got the dust cap in, and that masked the fact that the screw was missing, the retaining nut from that. You know, you wouldn't notice the retaining nut was missing with that in place, and they must have gone to a lot of trouble to get that to go into place with the retaining nut missing. The difficulty for me is we have different tariffs for what we do, of course, and this is a retune and test at the moment. If I open the back up, it becomes a repair and it's a different tariff, and the customer's not said to me, oh, by the way, the external speaker socket isn't accessible, you know. So it's a difficult thing. Now I'm hoping I've got a scrap American set, because we certainly have had one kicking around. Yeah, so hopefully we can recover. This is a crystal controlled 6-channel set. Can't use these aerials for the UK, which is a shame. But it's things like that. We've got the retaining. I mean, I've paid good money for this. They don't come free. It's very rare that they do. I just need to get that out and see if we can apply that to the other set. Right, I've done it. There we are. Right, we'll plug everything back in, and now we can plug in the test gear to the extension speaker socket. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I think that's a bit tarnished because it was a bit intermittent, wasn't it? So I'll just run that round with the fiberglass brush. Switch back on. Just like that. Oh, I didn't see where it was on frequency, so we'll do that. Move the camera over to there. 27,79106. It's not on frequency, we'll pull it up. I'll tell you what, we'll do that right now because it's a bit of a pain. We've got to get in the screening can here. Now, those of you interested in doing the VCO, and with no reason to do it on this set, because the radio hasn't presented as being fiddled with, is under this screening can, which is a pain to put back. In fact, I've even seen it missing, which is very, very slovenly. I don't think it's any harder to put back than it is to get off. Now I'm just going to, I think it's that one, but I'm just going to double check because I'd hate to make a mistake and have to redo the VCO. That's TC2, so we'll just check. TC2, yeah. So again, we'll put it into transmit, switch it back on. The test set's been on for about 4 hours, so there's no problem with it not being spot on now. There we go, spot on. Turn the set back off, put the VCO cover back on. Yay! It's gone in, no wires trapped. To be absolutely sure that no wires are trapped. Right, let's listen to that receive. Well, we can hear it. So it looks like we've got a set with no dry joints, which is fine. I mean, it might have had them in the past. It hasn't got them now. So the dry joints tend to be where it goes through the printed circuit board. You've got these. It's not a plated through printed circuit, and it's just pinned through, and you can end up with dry joints, and they tend to be on the other side and under the screening can. So there's no problem with this at all. In fact, this radio presents as working very well. So we'll switch the cyanide meter on and we'll get a figure for the receiver. It's supposed to be, worst case scenario, 1 microvolt for 10 decibel cyanide. So let's go over to the cyanide meter. And let's get 10 dB on there. There we go. So we've got 1.7 microvolts. So working on 10 dB cyanide on this set, because that's what the manual's working on. So we really need to be able to improve that. I'll read his letter eventually, or his email, and see what he was saying was amiss with it, or whether it was just general service. Right, so it's alignment time, and we're going to start. We've got a diagram there. So it's L5, T6, 7 and 8, L8 and L9. So L5 T678 678 L8 and L9. So L5, 6, 7, 8, and then 8 and 9. First of all, we're going to put this up to full power temporarily with the presets provided on this version. So the radio is now doing exactly 4 watts. Now this is where you need a set of tools, and it's different to any other set. So we're showing the power meter, we're not showing the power meter, we are now. So we want maximum. Now the next problem is that they've got a sealant on these. We're just going to have to scrape that away. It's a long way from Japan, isn't it? Made by GRE. There we are, got it off in one lump. That's fantastic. There's a little tiny bit more, it's 4 and a little dot. Making sure we're on channel 20, of course, which we are. So, back to the next one, T6, 7 and 8. That was spot on. That was spot on. That was spot on. So now we move to the 2 PA ones. Four. No, I've not got enough of that sealant off on this one. I don't want to break the tools, I don't want to break the core, of course. Let's see, we've got another one which is longer. That one. Right, so we've still got exactly 4 watts. Of course, the set's warmed up a bit now. So now we need to drop that with the preset provided to 3.5. So we're obviously not going to be thrashing the PA anyway, especially when it's a telescopic aerial, which isn't always going to have a fantastic SWR. So, and remember, of course, you've got to have the aerial fully out to transmit, otherwise you are going to have a high SWR and wreck the PA stage. So let's just look at what the ammeter's doing. So we're just over 1 amp, it's 1.01 to do 4 watts. Now if we drop this to 3.5 watts, there we have 3.5 watts. It's now 900 milliamps. So, you know, it's a good battery saving, that. And that's brought our low power to 190 milliwatts. So it's supposed to be 0.4, but it's just under 0.2. So it's not adjustable. It doesn't need repairing. It's fine. And I wonder if they say anything about that. Yeah, the minimum acceptable is 100 milliwatts. So we've now got that absolutely spot on They actually want low power to be 0.25 and it's 0.18, isn't it? So that's bizarre because it's supposed to be 0.4, but what can you say? So now we'll do deviation. Well, the meter on the top is a battery meter, and on high power it'll go banging across like that, and on low power it won't. There is no S meter on this, it's solely an RF relative output, which also is going to tell you what the battery is on receive. A battery complement on this is 10 AA rechargeables or 8 AA throwaway alkaline batteries. So if you're going to use alkaline batteries, you must put 2 dummy batteries in and put 8. Dummy batteries were provided originally, or if you haven't got them, well, they're readily available on eBay. Sometimes Chinese suppliers will call them fake batteries, but the correct word is a dummy battery. You're just bridging that gap. I don't know whether I've got any on here to show you. It's the kind of thing we have kicking around, but no, not today. Right, deviation. I think this is the first time that one of these has come in for repair without dry joints. It's probably been sorted in the past. So it's VR1 for deviation, and that VR1 is just there. So we'll try and get our little oscillator. By the way, this isn't a guitar tuner, this is a chromatic tuner. A guitar tuner would only do 6 notes. This does every note there is. So a guitar tuner does not do this. So don't go buying one. Go buy something which is chromatic. And we've got this to B flat, which is with the thing set at 438 Hertz for A, and that brings us to round about 1 kilohertz, which is what we're aiming at. But I've shown all this before. So deviation, see whether we can bring that up. It's fun, this, balancing that. Over the microphone. Pressing transmit as well. Now I'm pressing the controls on the thing. But full deviation, what have we got? That's what we've ended up with. Wallow. Wallow. It's about 1.9 to 2.2, and that is the best we can get. So that now is 3.5 watts. That's 1.9 to 2.2 kilohertz. We've already done that, 2779105. I'd like receive to be better. So on receive it's T4 that's our detector, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll go over to the oscilloscope. We will go over to the oscilloscope, it's there, it switches on, turn off the bench light, put the signal generator to 100 microvolts, so we've got a 100 microvolt signal. Let's adjust the volume so we get a sensible kind of trace like there, and we'll adjust, find the right tool, for maximum recovered audio. So very slight improvement there. Let's try it with the other tool because that just moved backwards. we'll have gained something there. So now it's transformer 1, 2, 3 and 4. We'll turn the oscilloscope off and save a tiny bit of electricity. 1, 2, 3 and 5. So let's go back. 1, 2, 3 and 5. One, get this right. 1, 2, 3, 5. Do not touch L12. That's done with a spectrum analyzer. It's a transmit 1 for the third harmonic or second harmonic, whatever it is. So here we go. Let's drop the attenuator. So we've got 4 dB showing. So it's not saturating the test equipment. The test equipment isn't saturating the receiver. No improvement there. Put a bigger signal one on for that one. Bigger signal, have a look at that one. I don't think we've gained anything there. We have actually, it's 1.4 microvolts. So I've brought that down from 1.7 to 1.4. Now in one of those situations, the set isn't faulty, but it hasn't got the most sensitive receiver in the world, and these sets don't. Now, you know, I've said this before, we could put this test set, instead of in EMF mode, into PD mode. Now it's in PD mode, let's look at these figures. So now, for 1 microvolt, we've got 0.75 microvolts, which is fab and brill. But that's not how I normally use the test set, and it doesn't say in the service manual how they're expecting you to have the test set. We have it in the hardest to achieve settings. Go back to EMF and it just goes out of spec again, but it isn't faulty. So that's the answer. It's 1.4 microvolts, 1.2 and a bit this time, you know, so that's where we are with it. You know, you could say, well, there may be a bit of loss in the between the external aerial socket as opposed to when using the telescopic. You know, that might be the case, but that's it. That is the best we can achieve. It isn't faulty, and it's going to have a jolly good range. We'll try it on Scratchy Corner, and I'm sure the customer will be jumping up and down with glee. So I'm just going to sort out this. We'll get that pushed in and get some glue on it. Hopefully, again, I can do it from this side. Right, so it can't be done from the top, so we are going to have to open the setup, and that will take it into the next tariff. I can't send it back with that potentially short-circuiting against the case. So these are the range boost side panels, these metal things, and it's not a gimmick, it works because your body becomes part of the ground plane. So that when they started with the plastic models like the 1007, and we lost that facility, the range dropped dramatically. So again, you've got to be very careful. What we've got to do, yeah, this has had plenty of work on it, you can see. So as I was saying, they're often under that screening plate where they play up. So again, we can't see any signs of corrosion on those battery terminals. What we've got to do is to unscrew the aerial. This is the later aerial with the spacer. Mind you, it's the later set, isn't it? So we've got to keep that. We've actually got to withdraw the aerial. And as you'll see, the grommets come with it because it's been pushed in and mangled somewhat. It's probably had a replacement aerial, and somebody's done it themselves, and they've actually damaged the tabs that stop it from falling out. So what we're going to have to do is to put some adhesive on and then wait a bit and come back and finish the video. So that's now clipped in, which it will. See whether we can get that in, because that might help the glue stay in position. Yeah, we can. You know what? It's fitted wrongly, this. What am I doing? The spacer doesn't go there. The spacer, this pushes out a bit, like that. The spacer goes here, in between the two. So someone has fitted replacement aerial and not realised why the spacer's there. So it goes like that. There's a shake-proof washer there, which is important. So now, when the aerial's down, it's not going into that grommet. It's being held up. So we'll start putting this together. So you've got to get the side control panel. You've got to kind of bend the case that goes over the side control panel, and then you've got to thread this onto its without snapping the wires off. I think we need it a bit further in, like that. There we go. And then that's got to clip into place like that, and then we'll put the range boost side panel screws back in. So I'm not going to hold the bench up because I think we're now safe. There's a corrosion on these screws. Hope it's not been to the seaside. Imagine this on a motorboat in the sea. Don't screw these on, you know, ridiculously, but they don't want to be tight. You need to make contact electrically. And I'm just going to make sure they do. Get the meter out, put it on bleep, so we're checking for continuity. So between chassis and side panel, chassis and side panel. Yep. Of course, the beauty of these sets is if you put an external mic to them, you can sling them on the seat of your car, and you know, you've got an instant set when you're in a car which doesn't have a CB. You can put a mag mount on the roof, run it on its batteries, plug a mic in and legally use it. Now you can't hold it to your face, that wouldn't be legal, but you can plug an external mic in and use it when driving, when safe to do so. So they're very useful sets, especially if you're going with a mate somewhere and like you're going to buy a new car or something and you need two of you. And one of you comes with one car that's CB equipped and the other you need to just have something temporary. You know, it's another. We do have these ready to go ourselves. And I find this is more reliable than the 1005 later model, which also says 4 watts on the front, but is 3.5. So, so don't think you're being diddled out of half a watt. The radio is capable of it, but it's pointless making the set do that. So, where did I put the lid? Did anyone look? I'll put it there. So we'll put the speaker back on. So this is 1981, 1982, you know, so is there a date code on this one? I think this is 83. I think it's the second month of 83. So I think this is a very late one because 83 saw the 1005. So it's as late as it gets. It's the same chassis as I say on the 1005. You get the LCD display, and again, it doesn't have a. Don't think that has a meter on it for our for receive, because it hasn't. Might look sexier. You know what? The way these have been cut, you'd expect it to be the other way. Am I connecting up this wrongly? I am. They want black to go to positive. I suppose it doesn't matter which way the cone moves. There we go, that's clipped back together. So I'm going to start by putting the through screw in, make sure there's nothing in the way. Just done that snugly. And we'll put these two screws in. So we've done field tests on these, I think twice. So any of you interested in seeing how they perform with Mr. Chippy in the body cam, You know, if you look in the back catalogue, you will see us getting 6 miles handheld to base, which we don't get on any of the new sets. And it's not because the new sets aren't any good, it's just they're not offering telescopic aerials. These days, I mean, if you went into Tesco and pulled up an aerial to ask about somebody's groceries, you know, people would look at you gone out, wouldn't they? So the charger you're expected to use with this is 18 volts at 50 milliamps. So it's the charger that has the limiting current. I've come disconnected somewhere down the line. There we go. So, just final test. Let's make sure it's still doing 3.5 watts or whatever it's doing. Yep. Right, onto the aerial with it. So hopefully it's got not enough sensitivity to hear the Wally's in Nottingham. 19 Roger. So the mic these originally had looks like this. This is the factory original extension mic. This particular one's got a Duff insert. It's something I bought off eBay in the United States at great expense, and when I got here it didn't work and I had to put a plug on it. But I think I'll put one of those Farnell inserts in and it would be better than nothing. We can of course wire up a standard mic, but that's the actual Tandy one. So I'm going to put these dust caps back with all their broken straps. So unless you knew, you know what I'm getting at, unless you knew that retaining nut was missing and you see it with that in to stop it from going inside, you wouldn't realise that anything was missing. So the extension aerial cap will go back on afterwards. Let's just flick through the channels. Nana Roger. Okay, well there we are. I'll turn the test gear off. That's another job. That's job 22 done. Put the service manual away. And Bob's your uncle. So we got that down to 1.4 at its best. But you know, as I said, I can turn the test set into PD mode instead of EMF and you'll get far better figures, and it depends how they're reading them. You know, lots of people will demonstrate things to show a good light, you know, especially in sales. They like doing that, don't they? They're telling you a whole load of bull about car fuel economy. And when it's not true, and when you look into it, they did the test with no water in the squirters and no people in the car and no spare tyre in the boot, and so the list goes on. So thanks for watching a Realistic 1001, now brought up to its peak performance, and the two little annoying things, the speaker socket pushed inside and the grommet for the aerial not fitted, and the aerial in the wrong position. There'll be a on the air test later with me using this on the bench like we usually do, and I've no doubt it'll work fine round Scratchy Corner.